Despite being the talk of the wrestling world, Bray Wyatt's WWE return storyline might not be fully worked out just yet. We'll touch on the plans moving forward for the former Universal Champion. Could JBL be set to manage a main roster star and return to Monday Night Raw in the process? We'll touch on that. Roxanne Perez made her main roster debut this past week on SmackDown, and Triple H reportedly was very happy and impressed with the NXT star's performance. Plus, speaking of Perez, her opponent from Monday Night Raw for this week's episode of NXT may possibly have been revealed. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. So let's talk about what everyone's talking about right now when it comes to WWE. That being the former WWE and Universal Champion Bray Wyatt, his return to the company, and storyline plans moving forward. There's been all this discussion, hasn't there, about Wyatt, the Wyatt6 faction, The Fiend, NXT stars, Wyndham Rotunda, Easter eggs, the moth logo that's appeared, all of this kind of stuff. What does it mean? Uncle Howdy, Uncle Harper, and, well, if you're a bit confused by this, it might be by design, of course, by WWE, but in addition to that, WWE might not also have all of the details figured out when it comes to Wyatt's plans moving forward. Now, of course, his return at WWE Extreme Rules was very well received, as was his emotional promo at SmackDown, and fans are eager to see what WWE does next with Bray Wyatt. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that these successes have been part of some well-crafted Triple H and Rob Fee-led master plan spanning weeks and months to come on WWE television. However, Dave Meltzer has suggested that there's a few details that haven't quite been finalized just yet. Speaking on TSN Radio's Sunday night's main event, Meltzer discussed the rumored names for the Wyatt6 faction. He said, quote, "I've certainly heard names for a faction, but then I heard other people say those aren't the names. And someone even told me it's not even all worked out exactly how it's all going to go down. The only thing that appears to be a sure thing is that the faction is likely to happen," with Meltzer saying, quote, "I think it's a faction. As far as who's playing what, I don't know. It's being kept like that for a reason. I think they're trying to keep it secretive. With WWE reaping the benefits of Bray Wyatt already, fans are no doubt hopeful that this creatively satisfying story will continue to deliver, of course." Now, it's interesting that Dave Meltzer is so hell-bent on this being a faction. He's said now numerous times, he's been on the record in terms of going on other people's shows and writing also in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, that he believes we are going to see a Wyatt6 faction. We're going to see Bray Wyatt have a faction. Now, what that faction actually consists of, we don't know. The assumption is that it's Wyatt6 and it's going to be various iterations of people from the Firefly Funhouse and other Bray Wyatt personalities. So you're going to have Bray Wyatt in there, I guess, as Wyndham Rotunda. You're going to have The Fiend. You're going to have Mercy the Buzzard. You're going to have Abby the Witch. You're going to have Ramblin' Rabbit. And you're going to have Huskers the Pig. And I guess you would have Uncle Howdy, that being Bray Wyatt, unless that's who that's actually going to be. It's Uncle Howdy as Bray Wyatt. I don't know. That's the interesting thing with that school of thought. And I don't know. So if Dave Meltzer there is saying that actually, well, they haven't figured out who's going to play who, then it would appear that the people we saw at Extreme Rules in the stands, those Firefly Funhouse characters that came to life, it would appear then that they haven't been decided, so they were just random people, and I think that's probably going to be the case. Now, certainly, it must be said, it is curious that as of right now, it still hasn't been revealed who those people were. If it was nobody, if it was just random people, independent wrestlers or whoever, playing those characters at Extreme Rules, that would already have come out. So the fact that it hasn't come out already is an indication that their identity remaining anonymous is fairly important. So we could see a situation whereby those people have already been picked for those roles, and that could be the situation. I said before that I don't even think the Wyatt6 faction is going to be heavily Firefly Funhouse influenced. I really think, and again, I might be wrong, if Dave Meltzer is saying this is the case, then I guess you don't have to believe him, because for WWE, he's not always accurate. For AEW, it's a different story, because he's talking to Tony Khan, or he's talking to people within All Elite Wrestling. WWE, it's a little bit different. His record's a bit hit and miss. I still think that a Wyatt6 faction could be entirely Bray Wyatt himself. I think you could have Wyndham Rotunda. I think you could have Bray Wyatt. I think you could have Uncle Howdy. I think you could have The Fiend. I think you'd have the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt. And I think you could have maybe Uncle Harper, which again, by all accounts, is meant to be another character that WWE has trademarked. So it would imply that that's going to be some kind of character too. Logically, you would suggest it might be somewhat of a tribute to the late Brody Lee. But we'll have to wait and see. So a lot of people might look at this and be somewhat worried and say, oh, the storyline isn't fully worked out just yet. But I disagree somewhat because I think that in reality, again, you've got a director of long-term creative storytelling in Rona and Rob Fee. And look, historically, WWE has not been good at long-term storytelling in terms of actually fully mapping things out. They haven't been the best when it comes to that. But I think with Bray Wyatt in this instance, there is a clear plan of where they're going to go. Maybe some of the finer details about how they're going to get there haven't been mapped out just yet, but you need that. You can't be too rigid in your storytelling. And in addition to that, you can't be too... If you say, this is the story we're going to tell, we're not going to divert from it at all, the issue is what if it's not fully well received? Or what if it doesn't make sense at certain points? Or this is pro wrestling. What if the crowd tells you to go in a different direction? What if the crowd says we want more of this, we want less of that? You have to be able to pivot and you have to be able to change course while still maintaining the same trajectory and getting to the same destination. Clearly, the destination involved here is a faction of which we don't know who's going to be involved in it. It could be one person, it could be several. And the destination also is WrestleMania. That's the next big event in terms of the big tentpole event. That's the next big event, and they're clearly building towards something with that. That's been quite widely reported as well, that the direction that this is going in is WrestleMania 39. Again, we don't know who that's going to involve. We don't know what that's going to involve, but that's the good thing. I think there is so much secrecy surrounding this storyline and surrounding Bray Wyatt at the moment, and again, that's by design. If Dave Meltzer says, well, some of those finer details haven't been figured out just yet, maybe that's because he's not meant to know them. Remember, nobody could confirm whether it was Bray Wyatt coming back. There was a lot of speculation that Bray Wyatt was going to return at Extreme Rules, and there was a lot of expectation that it was going to be Bray, and a lot of the hints and clues suggested that it was going to be Bray Wyatt. But even the day of and the day before, people could not tell whether that was Bray Wyatt or not. It was the expectation, but no website went on record and said for a fact, it's Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's coming back. You had the likes of Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful say the discussion and the expectation backstage is that it's Bray Wyatt. It feels like it's Bray Wyatt. It's got a lot of Bray Wyatt's creative fingerprints all over it, but no one could tell you. So WWE did a very good job of maintaining the secrecy surrounding Bray Wyatt's return. So it would only be logical to say that they would, in addition to that, they would maintain the secrecy of his return storyline as well and the storyline plans going forward. That's not surprising either. So for Dave Meltzer to say, well, it's not fully figured out yet, and there are the finer details that need to be figured out. Again, you could argue maybe he's not meant to know them. And two, that's the point of pro wrestling. You have bullet points of where you're going, and then you go not week to week, but a couple of weeks or month to month to figure out the finer points and the finer details. I would suggest that the more immediate plans moving forward, i.e. what they're going to do this coming week on SmackDown and the week after that and the week after that, they've probably got that figured out. Who is he going to feud with initially? Is he going to feud with anyone initially? So far, Bray Wyatt's not feuding with anyone. If it would appear like at the moment, Bray Wyatt's in his own universe. He's feuding with himself. He didn't kick off his return by having a confrontation with anyone. So, again, all of that's really interesting. Bray Wyatt is just fascinating. And his promo Friday night on SmackDown was excellent. The introduction of Uncle Howdy, again, we don't know that's the name, but that's the name of the mask by all accounts, is interesting. There were also a couple of Easter eggs during the show as well, whereby you had hooded people or masked people staring at the Wyatt logo or that moth logo at several points. There was a point where Triple H, it was behind Triple H when he was talking to Rey Mysterio doing the Liv Morgan segment. There was someone staring at that as well. I would suspect we'll probably see that Raw on Monday too. So the cryptic nature, the secretive nature of this whole storyline is not going to end anytime soon. Maybe expect another QR code as well. We got one Monday. Who's to say we're not going to get one this coming or tonight on Raw as well? So a lot of this is still surrounded in secrecy, and I expect that to continue. Now, let's talk about, we're talking about one return here in Bray Wyatt. Let's talk about another one in John Bradshaw Layfield, possibly managing Happy Corbin. This is really interesting. Now, WWE reportedly has, quote, immediate plans for a returning WWE World Champion and Hall of Famer, plans which could materialize on Raw in the coming weeks. John Bradshaw Layfield, of course, stepped down from WWE SmackDown commentary in September 2017, but has maintained a positive relationship with the company in the years since his departure. The relationship has now seen him apparently return to WWE television with plans for JBL possibly being revealed. According to a report via PW Insider, at the October 14 episode of SmackDown, there was backstage talk about JBL being present at Monday Night Raw in some capacity for a period of several weeks. JBL has previously appeared as a disembodied voice in a limousine speaking to Happy Corbin following his loss to Shinsuke Nakamura at the August 27, 2022 episode of Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. Now, he has previously spoken of his interest in managing Corbin, saying previously to Inside the Ropes, quote, I love Baron Corbin. I think Baron Corbin is a really smart guy, and I think Baron Corbin is a guy I would like to manage. Now, Corbin may currently be on SmackDown, of course, on that roster for what that's worth, but that might not stop JBL getting his way, especially with Rey Mysterio recently moving brands. We could see a situation whereby Mysterio goes to SmackDown and Corbin makes his way over to Monday Night Raw. As I mentioned, not that that matters anyway, because when you do take a step back and look at the Mysterio move to SmackDown, the brand split's not a thing. Like, WWE can say it is, but it's not. Because regularly we have SmackDown and Raw stars appearing on both shows, and I'm not talking about the Bloodline, or I'm not talking about the Women's Tag Team Champions or Roman Reigns, who has the right to appear on both shows. You regularly see the Alpha Academy were just on SmackDown for a couple of weeks just because they were feuding with Braun Strowman. That was it. Braun Strowman returned to WWE on Monday Night Raw, but he's on SmackDown moving forward. Omos, Friday on SmackDown, just appeared in the crowd, and going forward, him and MVP are going to be on SmackDown. They're going to be feuding with Strowman. So the idea that you would have to announce Happy Corbin being traded to Monday Night Raw, frankly, is laughable. As I've mentioned before, my prediction is, and this isn't a scoop, this isn't me having insider sources or anything like that. My opinion is that Triple H is flooding out the roster. He's bringing back these ex-WWE superstars, these people that were released. He's calling up people from NXT, and he's going to build out the roster. And then once we get past WrestleMania 39 next year, in Inglewood, California, WrestleMania goes Hollywood, my expectation is that essentially it'll start over again. We'll see a draft and we'll get a hard brand split whereby you won't see any more crossover. You'll have your respective brands, maybe once or twice a year, probably once a year or once every 2 years. You'll have a draft, but that will be it. And he'll move it back to what it was like between 2003 to sort of 2006, 2007, where there wasn't a crossover. The brands had their separate shows. Maybe they come together for premium live events. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have separate premium live events. We're seeing that there might be a plan for WWE to scale back on the amount of premium live events next year. So we could see a situation anyway, actually, where because there's less of them, there's just more time between them. So again, the brands are more separate. We could see more of that, and the expectation is they're going to move away from gimmick pay-per-views as well. So considering all of that, I think it makes a lot of sense. Look, you're talking about two guys here. If you look at the WWE roster today, who is a heel that nobody likes in terms of, I think most people can appreciate that Happy Corbin is a good worker. He has good matches. He has, matches that people go, they're fine, but he's a heel. People like to boo him. People like to hate him. Is it go away heat? No, because I think there's enough respect there that people say, well, I don't like him, but he's okay in the ring. He's watchable. He gets real heat. And he's really been one of the first people to do that as being a proper heel since JBL. That's probably why JBL really warms to him, let's be honest, because JBL looks at him and says, actually, you know what? The guy gets heat. JBL, in the mid-2000s, everyone hated him. I mean, get a proper heel. And it wasn't a case of, like nowadays there's a heel and you boo him, you go, boo, oh, you go, but he's so entertaining to watch. JBL wasn't like entertaining to watch. You'd watch him and just go, man, I can't stand this guy. I cannot stand this guy. But he was a bit of the last of a dying breed. So he kind of fits very well with Happy Corbin in that sense. And obviously the gimmick is that they're rich, and Happy Corbin's rich after he won that money in Vegas. For me, the best character that Baron Corbin has ever done is the Baron Corbin that was destitute and had no money. That run from, where was it last year, sort of it was the summer of sort of miserable Corbin. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then he won the money and became Happy Corbin, and the gimmick, it became insufferable. Madcap Moss, and it got Vince McMahonified, which was a shame. But it was fine. It was fun. So I think JBL managing Corbin could be a really good pairing. Now, they're saying he'd be on Raw for a couple of weeks, so it would appear that JBL isn't making a full-time return to management or anything like that. But that pairing could work. And I'll be interested to see how that could work going forward. So keep an eye out for that. Now, Roxanne Perez made her main roster debut this past Friday night on SmackDown, and WWE's Chief Content Officer Triple H is reportedly, quote, really happy with the current NXT star less than a year after she signed with the company, and is looking for ways to bring her back to the main brands again in the near future. Following her main roster debut on the October 14, 2022 episode of Friday Night SmackDown, Roxanne Perez teamed with Raquel Rodriguez and Shotzi against Damage Control, with Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai coming out of the match victorious. PW Insider Elite, which of course is their subscription service, be sure to check that out, has revealed that after the debut match and the match itself, Triple H and other officials were, quote, really happy with what they saw. Now, referring to future plans for Perez on the main roster, Sportskeeda has reported that there are plans being discussed to bring her back to the blue brand once again. Roxanne Perez's appearance on SmackDown is part of the build-up for the upcoming Halloween Havoc event for NXT, with Perez and her opponent Cora Jade picking each other's opponents. With Perez picking Raquel Rodriguez, we'll find out who Cora Jade picks when she appears on Raw. We are going to touch on in a second who we think that, or who it has been rather reported as to who that opponent could be. But look, Roxanne Perez, people forget, I think she's 20, 21. She started wrestling when she was 17, I believe. And the ability she has at such a young age is astounding. And I think that another great example of how that can really benefit WWE is when you see someone like Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks also started when she was incredibly young. When she was working in NXT, she was in her early 20s. So if you get it right, you can get and they're turned into a bona fide star. There's so much longevity there. Paige is another example. Of course, she had injuries. But Roxanne Perez, for her age, she should nowhere near be as good as she is. And I thought she was very good on SmackDown. The only frustrating bit they'll have is that the finish was somewhat botched, and it was kind of a flat finish, but those things happen. Bayley gave her a ton of offense, which goes to show how highly WWE thinks of her right now. So certainly impressive, and I wouldn't be surprised if Perez gets called up to the main roster soon. And frankly, she would be needed on SmackDown because they still are somewhat light when it comes to top tier female talent. So keep an eye out for Roxanne Perez. But speaking of Perez, we do have an update on who her opponent could be this coming Tuesday night on NXT. Cora Jade's choice for NXT Pick Your Poison may have been revealed before tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. The Pick Your Poison match, which sees each participant pick the other's opponents, has seen Roxanne Perez make her SmackDown debut, where she would select Raquel Rodriguez as Cora Jade's opponent. With such an imposing presence now representing her in the match, Cora Jade is going to appear on Monday Night Raw to choose the person who will face Perez rather. Now, speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer has suggested that the identity of Roxanne Perez's representative, as chosen by Jade, is none other than Rhea Ripley. Now, if the report is accurate, Roxanne Perez will face Rhea Ripley tomorrow night on NXT, and Cora Jade will take on Raquel Rodriguez. Cora and Roxanne will then have their match against each other this coming weekend at NXT Halloween Havoc. While they aren't facing each other this time, Raquel and Rhea have crossed paths before, including the 2020 NXT edition of Halloween Havoc, with Ripley pitting Rodriguez. So it could be a situation where you've got Cora Jade versus Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez versus Rhea Ripley. Now, Rhea Ripley appearing on the show would certainly be a big boost for NXT, and she's just returned to action this past weekend at the live event after being out for the majority of the summer due to the brain and teeth injury that she had. But now she has certainly returned to action. So it would make a lot of sense. And certainly, I think as well, from WWE and NXT's perspective, the return to in-ring action of Rhea Ripley, to put that on NXT just goes to show how much they want to load up that show. Of course, they're going to be going head-to-head with Tuesday Night Dynamite as well. So they're going to put some main roster stars in there. The return to in-ring action of Rhea Ripley too, to hopefully pick up a bit of a ratings number against AEW Dynamite. But there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below. And let me know your thoughts as we head into, of course, Monday Night Raw tonight as well. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.